All my life, I've fostered a deep love for Halloween. Everything about it makes me tingle with the joy and expectation of a fun, spirited time. I mean, the weather is superb. The leaves of yellow, red, and brown are gorgeous. The decor inspires my infinite imagination. The treats are mouth-watering. The movies and shows leave me in a perpetual state of high anxiety. What's not to love? Within the last couple of years, I've become old enough to dress up for the holiday again. As a child, I of course slipped into a costume for the night. Then, as a preteen, it occurred to me that I was too old for such shenanigans. Much like how it came to me that I was no longer little enough to play with my Barbies and dolls. I recently dove into my mid-20s right as my daughter Olivia entered her toddler years, and it dawned on me that I am finally at an acceptable age to don a costume again. In addition to this, there's nothing more fun than having your child pick out a costume and go trick-or-treating. I still love Halloween. I don't think anything could ever make me stop enjoying the night. However, now I approach Halloween like I'd approach a stranger in a dark alley, with caution. Olivia was about 1.5. She dressed as a dragon that year and looked absolutely adorable. I know I'm biased, but it's true. We trick-or-treated for an hour before my sleepy baby vocalized, by way of tantrum, that she had had enough festivities and was ready for bed. I'd worked all day, so I was a bit relieved that we could head home. The walk home was nice. The sky was a deep slate gray as it wasn't fully night. There was a cool breeze that carried to my ears the gleeful voices of children all through the neighborhood. At home, I bathed my cranky baby, slapped a fresh diaper and PJs on her, tucked her in, planting a kiss on her forehead before leaving her to drift into sleep. For myself, I changed out of my headless horseman attire, grabbed a beer, snagged a few chocolates out of Olivia's pumpkin bucket, and settled into the couch to watch a horror film on TV. I sipped my beer, ate my stolen bounty, and cringed into the cushion at every jump scare. When the credits of my movie rolled, I turned off the TV, showered, got ready for bed. I was getting myself some ice water when there was a knock at my door. I checked the oven clock, 10:39. Trick-or-treating ended at 8, but I figured maybe some teenagers were trying to stretch out the night or perhaps wanted to dabble in some practical jokes like a ding-dong ditch. I tiptoed to the door and peered through the peephole. A weeping girl, probably about 16 or so, stood on my welcome mat, mascara running down her face. She was dressed in an outfit that reminded me of Little Red Riding Hood. Fuck's this about? I opened the door. Are you okay? What's going on? You gotta let me in! Please, Jesus, let me in! I'm so scared! The stench of raw fear emanated from the girl. If she was playing a joke, she more than earned a fucking Academy Award. I instantly felt my stomach drop. I had Olivia sound asleep in her bed to worry about. Yeah, come on, hurry, I said, letting her in and shutting and locking the door. Oh God, thank you. You've no idea. I've gone to 1,000,000 different houses and no one would even acknowledge me. She peeled the red hood of her cloak off her head of long, dark hair. What's going on? Are you hurt? Do I need to call your parents or the cops or both? No! She shouted, throwing her hands up in front of her. I flinched. She lowered her arms to her sides. I mean, no, that's not necessary. I'm okay. Can I get a drink, please? Yeah, but you're going to tell me what's going on, right? She solemnly nodded, chewing on her bottom lip. After I'd given her a glass of water, we sat on the couch. She guzzled the water down and put the empty glass on my coffee table. I cleared my throat. I didn't want to be pushy, but I had to know the extent of the situation. I was with some friends. We weren't trick-or-treating or anything, just walking around goofing off. There's this party we were going to go to tonight. She twirled a strand of hair around her index finger. It's okay. Really. I was trying my best to sound like a safe and comforting adult. when really I felt like a terrified, insecure little girl. I wish I wasn't having to deal with this. I wished there was someone older around to take care of it. We went to the cemetery, took some candles and stuff for a seance. Everything was just in fun. We didn't mean for anything to really happen. My arms broke out into goosebumps. I knew in the same way you can feel someone staring at you without even seeing them, in the same way you know that the teacher is about to call your name before she does, that whatever she was about to tell me was the truth. I squirmed in reluctance to receive it. I wanted my mom. At first we thought it was a train because it sounded so far off. Then we thought it was the wind, but the trees weren't moving. That's when the grave next to us crumbled. We all screamed and scattered. I ended up alone running past grave after grave. Her voice was getting shrill, hysterical. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I tripped over something, and when I stood up, there was this woman standing in front of me. She was in a long black dress. Oh God, and this terrible smell. She smelled like death. Her face, her eyes were completely white, and her mouth was open. She had these teeth like some kind of monster, but the worst part was the axe stuck in her neck, and her head was crooked and looked like it was barely hanging on. She swallowed and closed her eyes, rubbing her arms. She touched me, touched me with those long talon-like nails. I screamed and ran and tried to get someone to help me, but then you answered your door. I don't know where my friends are, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Her pale face flushed suddenly. I was so scared. I wet myself. She whispered in a small voice, avoiding my face. I was stunned. I had no idea how to react. The rational part of me said this girl was messing with you. You aren't fucking with me, are you? No, she cried. I swear. I hate to ask you this, but have you been using drugs? She shook her head. I had 2 beers hours ago, but that's it. I wet my lips with a suddenly heavy tongue. About your friends. You don't think it's possible they were playing a joke on you, do you? She stared off into space. I hope they weren't. An impregnated silence fell before I shattered it as I got up and started for the hall. Just hang on a second. I'm gonna get my cell so you can call your parents, okay? And I think I have a pair of pants you can fit into too. Just breathe. You're perfectly safe now. She didn't answer me, just kept staring at nothing. The goosebumps materialized again. On the way to my room, I checked on Olivia. She was sleeping peacefully, blissfully unaware of the situation in the living room. When I returned, the dialer already opened on my cell. This girl was gone. I raced the door and flung it open. I looked up and down the street for her, but I saw no one. Eaten alive with worry, but not knowing what to do, I barely slept that night. The next day, as Olivia was eating yogurt melts in her booster seat, I searched the living room for a book I hadn't yet pawed through in order to get my mind off the mysterious teenage girl. En route to the bookshelf, I paused in front of the couch. There, where the girl had sat, were what resembled bloodstains in 4 different places. 2 were on the cushion you sit on, and the others were painted on the top cushions. The sight knocked the wind out of me. Had she been bleeding? And how had I not noticed that she was bleeding if she was? Why hadn't she told me she was hurt? As silly as I'd feel doing so, I felt compelled to call the police, to at least ensure this girl was safe. But the news anchor speaking on my TV halted my intentions and captured my attention. Hill Cemetery. The teenage girl was found dead at approximately 10 this morning by the groundskeeper. Authorities are not releasing details of her death at this time, but did state that she appeared to have died sometime last night. My gut screamed out, "It's the girl! It's the girl from last night!" I practically threw Olivia into the car seat in my haste to leave, buckling her and slipping behind the wheel in the driver's seat. I peeled out of the driveway, narrowly missing my nail box, and zoomed through the streets of my neighborhood, neighbors openly gawking. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of the sheriff's department. I burst through the entrance, Olivia in my arms, and jogged up to the front counter. Before the officer standing there had a chance to speak, I cried out, "I want to speak to someone about the teenage girl found at the cemetery." Yes, ma'am, come with me." I followed the deputy through fluorescent halls of generic metal doors. He stepped outside one and knocked. "Yeah, lady here to see you about, well, the teenage girl." The door opened, revealing a squat, pudgy man with intense brown eyes. His eyes found my gaze and cooled considerably. Come in. I'm Sheriff Hughes." We shook hands. "I'm Laura Yoke." Olivia fussed as I squeezed into the dense office. I opted to stand so I could bounce her on my hip. "Please, sit," he said, plopping down into his chair. "No, thank you. Oh God, this is gonna just sound crazy, but last night." "What time last night?" he asked, eyes averted as he scribbled into a notebook. The green dial numbers on my oven clock flashed before me. It was 10:39 to be exact. He added something to whatever it was he was writing, then set the pen down, folded his arms across his chest, and gave me his full attention. "This girl, a teenage girl, knocked on my door. She's crying, hysterical. I let her in and asked what's wrong. And she says that she and her friends were having a seance in the cemetery and something spooked them and, well, she says she saw a ghost, I guess, and she's so terrified, more scared than I have ever seen someone in my life. I went to get my cell so she could call her parents, but when I got back to the living room, she had left. I was up all night worrying about this girl, and today I noticed these red marks on my couch where she had been sitting. They looked like blood to me. Then I heard the news about the girl found. He held up a hand. "Let's calm down a minute here. What was this girl wearing?" "A costume. Reminded me of Little Red Riding Hood. She had long dark hair and pale skin." The stern man's face froze in shock of a mere fleeting second. He adjusted his collar and smiled. Okay, sounds like to me we have a little coincidence going on here." "Really?" "Oh God, this makes me feel a little better. She doesn't match the description then?" "I cannot say that. It's an ongoing investigation. But I am going to tell you something else that I shouldn't, because I see how concerned you are. Couldn't have been the girl found this morning." He didn't have to say anything about the clothes the dead girl was wearing. I was positive my visitor matched the body in the graveyard based on his expression when I described her. "Wait a second. I saw your face when I described how she looked." He dismissed my observation. "Couldn't have been her, I say, because the girl found this morning was already dead by 10:30 last night. She was dead from about 8:30. I scoffed. "How accurate is time of death?" "Pretty damn accurate. It's pretty accurate, ma'am. So there, it couldn't have been the same girl unless you were wrong about the time." No, I know it was 10:39. I know because I looked at the clock and thought about how trick-or-treating had ended before I went to the door. I am 100% sure of the time." "Okay." He clucked his tongue and tipped his head to indicate Olivia on my hip. "Ma'am, toddlers are professional mess makers. She probably got a hold of something you didn't even realize, and she had leaked it all over on your couch. You don't think you would have noticed if this girl last night was wounded? I mean, was she acting hurt?" "No." I mumbled. I even asked her if she was hurt, and she said no. There, it's settled then. Nothing but a coincidence. I left there feeling a tad foolish, despite the nagging voice in my head that said something was definitely wrong here. I hadn't believed Sheriff Hughes was right. But I needed so badly to trust in his argument, to have some sense of closure about those strange events, that I convinced myself that I was fretting over nothing. With a little time and some avoidance on my part of the news in any form, I settled back into normalcy and soon rarely thought of Halloween night. Not until Thanksgiving. At Thanksgiving dinner, my aunt's husband, a sheriff's deputy in a neighboring county, brought up the cemetery murder after he was 3 drinks deep. You wouldn't believe the fucking sickos running around in society pretending to be fucking normal. Ugh, it just turns my stomach. Like that girl they found here at what's it called? He looked at my aunt. Park Hills. Yeah, Park Hills Cemetery. My blood turned to ice. That crazy fuck. Now, I know they kept the details out of the papers, out of respect for the girl's family, but I gotta tell you, because it's a perfect fucking example of the kind of sickos I'm talking about. This guy, who they've never caught, and probably never will, actually axed the poor girl's arms and legs. That's right, axed them to make it look like that woman's murder from way back when. Robbie, maybe... Honey, please, I'm telling a story here. Let me finish. Wait, are you talking about Tallulah James? They made it look like Tallulah James killed her. Really? Remember, we used to tell each other the story of Tallulah when we were kids, Laura. My cousin intervened, wide-eyed. I said nothing. Whatever. This fucker actually took her arms and legs. They haven't been able to find him. Oh, and he bit into her neck. Robbie! Aunt Paula yelled. Paula? It's Thanksgiving. Maybe we should find something more pleasant to talk about. Besides, Laura looks as if she had seen a ghost. Around the dinner table, all eyes were on me. My family's soft laugh chimed. Their faces tilted and grew hazy as I slipped out of consciousness. When I opened my eyes, my mom was leaning over me. Easy, baby, you fainted. I just want you to rest right here. I've got Olivia. Do you need anything? I shook my head. Robbie doesn't know when to shut up. I mean, I'd rather not hear about that gruesome murder either, especially on a holiday, she sighed. I'll be back in a few to check on you. She kissed my cheek and departed. Lying on my childhood bed, the story from my youth sailed into my mind. I had always thought it was just a fun, scary story made up by some kid with an imagination the size of life. In the dark, one of us would just whisper the tale of Tallulah Jones, the pastor's wife who first poisoned him to death, then kidnapped a dozen children, murdered them, and axed their arms and legs off. Angry, suspicious townspeople coming to confront her found the rotting corpses of the missing children in her cellar. When they asked her what she did with their arms and legs, she smiled and simply replied, Why, I ate them, of course. Her own cousin buried an axe in her neck. I didn't make the connection because I hadn't known how the teenage girl had been killed and had never contemplated whether Tallulah had been a real person. Not until Uncle Robbie spoke about the graveyard murder and that woman's murders from way back when. I turned to my side, pulling my knees into my chest. Tallulah James had come for one last child, and that child, neither she nor I knowing she was already dead, paid me a visit on our final Halloween night.